After living full-time on cruise ships for the last 12 months, I've come up with 12 cruising tips that I've learned along the way. Some of them I had never heard before and just came up with because I'm doing this full-time, and some are going to be tips that I had researched in advance of moving onto ships full-time and now I don't think are really worth it. So come along, let me share these tips with you. Cruise tip number 1, grab silverware and keep these in your stateroom. They're available at the buffets, main dining room. Just grab a couple sets of silverware. Trust me, there will definitely be a moment in time when you either ordered room service and someone forgot to bring silverware, or I like to get coffee in the morning with some almond milk and then I add protein powder, and sometimes there's no spoon included. So I honestly can tell you that there hasn't been one week that I wasn't glad that I had this silverware, and it really comes in handy because sometimes the last thing you want to do is call room service, wait on hold, ask for silverware, and then by the time it gets delivered, your food's either cold, or get shoes on, go somewhere that may or may not have silverware depending on what time of the day or night it is, just because you need something to eat with or to stir your coffee. Trust me on this one. It's super simple. Stock a couple of these, stick them in a drawer, and you'll be grateful that you had these. Tip number 2, if you have a couch in your stateroom, it makes such a big difference to request either a sheet, a blanket, or a duvet cover with the filling to go ahead and put on your couch. And I say this for a few reasons. First of all, the couches are not cleaned between guests, and this allows you to have a nice clean surface to sit on or lay on. It makes them so much more cushioned and comfortable. This really became clear when I was sailing in Alaska and just wanted a spot to curl up and be nice and cozy and warm. And another tip is remove the pillows that are also not cleaned between guests, and get an extra couple of bed pillows and put one on each side, and you can use those as an armrest or to be able to lay down or just have some extra cushion. It seems like a small tip and a minor request, but I can tell you every single time it makes such a huge difference and can really make your cruise so much more comfortable. Okay, tip number 3. I only learned this one probably 3 months into cruising, and it again is one of those simple things that once you know, you know. So have you ever tried to open your balcony door and for some reason it feels stuck, or it's super hard to open and you're not sure if the handle's up or down? Is it locked or unlocked? What's wrong? In fact, I've even called the guest services to have someone to come look at my balcony sliding door because it wasn't opening. So here's a simple tip. Just lean your hip or your body against the glass, not so hard that it's gonna, not your whole body, but just lean into the glass as you're pulling the door, and the door slides open. It sounds so simple, but I can't tell you how many times, probably once every day or two, that I go to open the door and it won't slide open, and I just lean into pushing against the glass a little bit, and then the door just slides right open. So if you're having trouble opening that balcony door, just lean in. It works. Tip number 4, the smart elevators. So smart elevators are now becoming more and more common on cruise ships, and there's a couple of things that you may or may not know. First of all, you want to push the floor that you're going to before you step into any elevator. When I was first on the Sun Princess, I stepped in and went to go push the button and had to get off at the next stop, not being in the habit of these new elevators. So you want to push the button before you get in the elevator. But here's a couple of tips that you may not know. You actually need to push that floor for the number of people in your party. Have you noticed on these smart elevators, sometimes you're waiting for your elevator and it opens and it's full and there's not even room And why, if they're smart elevators, did that happen? Because no one told us that you're supposed to push. Let's say you're going to deck 7 and there's 4 of you. You need to push deck 7 4 times, once for each person, to make sure that the elevator is calculating 4 people. Another tip is if you have anyone that is needing any type of assistance, extra space, or is in, any type of walking assistance or scooter, wheelchair, anything like that, you can push the handicapped button. It'll ask you for the range of floor that you want to go to and then the exact floor. The elevator seems to come quicker, and it should accommodate extra space for needing a scooter or a wheelchair, walker, or any other type of assistance. So definitely important to know. Tip number 5, I ask the steward to try to stock extra washcloths, the small square ones, because I find, first of all, that they just come in handy for so many different things. I like to bring them on an excursion. In fact, another tip is to wet that washcloth. Always pack Ziploc bags. I know you've seen this online in other videos. Ziploc bags are a game changer. In fact, pack things in Ziploc bags. Shampoos, conditioner, makeup, anything that you think could get scattered or needs extra protection. And I even bring extra empty Ziploc bags. They're the best and useful for everything. What I like to do is take a couple of washcloths, wet them, put them in a Ziploc bag, and then stick them in your fridge. I even throw some ice in there and bring them on an excursion with you. So especially when you're in warm weather where you just need to cool off, is the best thing ever. I feel like my mom used to do this when we used to go on vacation as a little kid. She'd bring cold, wet washcloths, and I thought it was kind of dumb, but to be honest, to have that cool, refreshing, cold washcloth to wash your face, to wash your hands, to cool off if you're at the beach, if you're going on a boat excursion, any type of hiking, even if you're just going and shopping, it's just nice to know that you can wash your hands and wash your face. And any long bus ride excursions, I'm going to tell you right now, it is a godsend. Again, seems like a small tip and not that big of a deal, but once you've done it once, you're going to want to make this part of your packing tips for going off the ship. Cruise tip number 7, I now pack Post-it notes. I like the ones that are about this big with lines on them, and I use them for a few reasons. They don't take up much space. They're not very heavy. I like to make a list for the steward when I first get in my cabin. I put my name and my cabin number at the top, and I make a list, and I'll do a video of the list of things that I ask for when I first get to the cabin. And I leave it as a list. You can put it on your vanity. You can even just post it to the inside or outside of your cabin door. Set it on the bed. And that way your steward has a list of the things that you need. Nice and clear. And nothing that I need is so urgent that it has to get there right that minute. Like, it can come anytime the rest of the day. And I feel like this allows the steward to be able to manage the time a little bit better and to have it all ready for them at their convenience. And everything's all done at once. It just makes things so much smoother. Nothing's forgotten. And I just have that list ready to go. I also like Post-it notes for quick little thank you notes that go along with tips. Sometimes it's nice to just write a nice little handwritten thank you. I think it really makes things very personal and appreciative. And then I like to kind of write out like my to-do list for the day or plans for tomorrow, so I don't forget if the clock's going to change, what time dinner's at, is there a show or an activity that I definitely don't want to miss, do I have an appointment at the spa that I don't want to be late for. So I usually make my to-do list, and it's nice just to be able to stick it up neatly on the wall inside your cabin, and then you just have a list of everything that you're planning for the next day so that you're not forgetting anything. I think it's also a great way to communicate with other people that are staying in your cabin. If you want to leave them a note of where you're headed, communicate in a way that doesn't need any type of Wi-Fi or even a cell phone. It's another way just to be able to communicate with people in your cabin. So it definitely comes in handy. I use them every single day. and they don't take up much room at all. Okay, tip number 8, makeup bags. I've seen a lot of videos that talk about those hanging makeup bags that like fold up, and then there's like a little hook on the top that you can hang to keep all of your makeup and toiletries organized. I bought one of those when I first started cruising, and now I do not use them anymore. I find that if you hang them in the bathroom, they get in the way when you're trying to go in and out. Sometimes the doorways of the bathrooms are small, and even the bathrooms are small. They feel like they're cluttered to me. I don't think it hangs very well when you unzip. So you're constantly zipping and unzipping. Otherwise, I feel like the zipper's kind of buckle and stuff can fall out. I don't think that they're the most organized in my personal opinion. And to be honest, I'm not doing my makeup in the bathroom. I'm doing my makeup at the vanity where there's vanity lighting and kind of space. And so what I do now is I just bring a makeup bag that just opens nice and wide and has lots of separations and zipper and compartments to keep things organized. And a little tip is when I unpack, I put my makeup in some of the glasses that are in the room. You can even ask for extra of these short glasses, but I like to put like all brushes in one, anything that sticks like liners, eyeliner, lip liner, etc. And that way my makeup is all contained and easy to just grab and do your makeup. So that to me is a much better way of keeping things organized and making it fast and easy to just get your makeup done or touch up your makeup and not have to rely on doing that in the bathroom. It's just not the most convenient place, and I don't think the lighting is that great. So if you haven't purchased a hanging makeup bag, I don't think you really need it, in my opinion. Another thing to skip is tip number 9. So probably 3 or 4 different cruise legs, I bought magnets. And the first time I got magnets, they weren't strong enough. So anytime I tried to hang anything more than a light hat, like a little small baseball type hat, those nylon Nike ones, anything stronger than that or heavier than that actually pulled the magnets down. So the next time I went with the heavy duty ones, and they were so strong. There was a couple that I couldn't actually figure out how to pull off the wall, and I'm pretty strong, at least I've been trying to work out, and I could not get them off the wall. And so that seemed to be a waste. I also found that the heavier duty ones, the hooks are sharp, and I tried rolling them in clothes. I feel like they snag things and pull things and potentially rip things in your luggage, especially in your checked luggage. And they're heavy. The heavy duty ones are heavy, and they're adding weight. And the other thing I noticed is there's hooks in the cabin. There's hooks usually by the door, there's hooks in the bathroom, and there's a lot of space in your closets to just put things on a hanger, on a shelf, or stick them in a drawer. I find that if I'm hanging stuff all over the room, it feels cluttery to me. This is the space that is quiet and peaceful and calm, and I don't need hats and bags and things hanging. It just makes the room feel smaller. I don't find it useful. It might come in handy if you're sharing a room with kids and trying to keep things organized, but I just have to say, even when Austin, Lauren, and I, my son and daughter-in-law, shared a cabin, we've had plenty of space, and between stuff you can keep stored in your luggage under the bed, the hanging, you can hang backpacks, you can put hats on a shelf, in a drawer. There just seems to be plenty of space, and I don't find that the magnet hooks are really worth it, and I don't really like the aesthetics of it feeling cluttered and making the room feel smaller. Cruise tip number 10. This one took me a little while to learn as well. I like to get some work done. I'm working on my YouTube channel or just things that I need to keep up online, and the chairs in your cabins are not always the most comfortable. And literally, I will use either a bed pillow, usually a bed pillow, and just stick it on the back of your chair. Again, one of those things that you don't think about or you think is really that big of a deal. But if you put it just on your lower back, It makes the chair so much more comfortable. And if you have any amount of time that you want to be sitting there, again, doing hair and makeup, working on your laptop, any activity that you might be sitting at the desk or at the vanity, putting that little chair behind your back. Maybe this is an old people's problem, but I find that it just makes sitting there so much more comfortable. Try it. Tip number 11, and this one I feel is critical. In fact, out of this list, this is the one that you absolutely need to do. So when you arrive in a port, by the elevator on Princess, there is a posting. They have those like picture frame video of the port details and contact details, and also lists the all aboard. So you either want to find it on your app, find it in any type of like daily planner, patter, or what have you that comes the night before, or next to the elevator before you get off the ship. Take a photo of that contact information. There'll be a phone number, the address of the port, and should something happen, which I'm hoping and praying it never does, but should something happen and you need to reach the ship to let them know that you're running late or that something happened in port, you're going to want that phone number. So my other recommendation that goes along with this is I use WhatsApp. It's not as common in America because we text, but texting is not something that most people do outside of America. Other countries use WhatsApp. It's Wi-Fi based. Internet phone is basically what it is. And as long as you can get an internet connection, then you can have phone service when you're in a port. And I find that to also be an important safety mechanism, just in case I'm having an issue with connecting to a Verizon phone line. So I do have an international phone plan, but I find that I use WhatsApp 95% of the time, and WhatsApp is available to be able to dial these numbers. And I have heard over the loudspeaker more than once the captain saying that we're waiting for 4 passengers or we're waiting for 2 passengers, that they're in contact with them and they're on their way, but we're going to be leaving 15 minutes later or 30 minutes later. And those announcements have come up more than once, a handful of times. And if something's happened where you're on your own, a do-it-yourself type excursion, or you lost track of time, you're going to want to have that phone number to be able to get in touch with the ship and let them know. Or should something happen, to be able to have that communication. I think it's really important. And it's good to take a screenshot of the all aboard times, because there's been times when I was out and about in a port and I've asked different people what time all aboard was, and everyone gave me a different answer. So I prefer to have the exact all aboard time as a photo on my phone so that I know that it is the exact all aboard time. And still try to be an hour early before all aboard. Shoot for an hour early should something happen on your way back, but it's just the peace of mind to know that I have both of those pieces of information before I get off the ship. Cruise tip number 12. I love coffee. If you've been following this channel, you know that I love coffee. I gave up wine, but I still drink coffee. And when you get coffee on a ship, it is going to be either in a paper cup or this tiny little, feels like a shot glass cup of coffee. And so one thing that I've started doing, especially because I'm on back-to-back cruises, is I will buy a coffee cup from the first port or from the cruise ship. I've done both. And I like the big open coffee mugs, because having a cup of coffee and going out to see the sun and the sea and the sky is just one of my greatest moments of the day, and cruising and life in general. And to me, it makes such a huge difference. So not only do you have an amazing coffee cup to enjoy your coffee for your entire cruise, but you can keep it as a souvenir, or sometimes I'll even give it away as a gift. And the stewards can actually run it through a dishwashing machine to sterilize it, just like regular dishes and glasses, which is also really nice to do. I wash mine and rinse it out, but then I also have them run it through the dishwasher to keep it sanitized. So giving it as a gift, keeping it as a souvenir is just the greatest tip. These small tips can really make such a difference. And I can tell you, living full-time on a cruise ship, they've now become my habit and way of cruising. Let me know in the comments if you've implemented any of these tips, or if you have other tips that you want to share in the community. I'd really appreciate it. Hope to see you on a cruise one day.